Hey guys, it's Nick and Tony Sicilian. We're here today with TJ Kosen. We're doing a recap of the Dave Ramsey video we did a couple months ago, see where we are with the market, see if we still believe what we said then.
Are you listening?
Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school.
I want to talk to TJ about the Dave Ramsey video. It's probably a pretty popular one that
That's
he's done.
bad. Pay down your credit card debt.
Yeah, no,
Pay down your house debt.
Not that
Pay
one.
down your boat debt.
Someone
dude, I need some boat debt.
no, you don't. Someone asked him specifically direct on, are we in a housing bubble?
Mm-hmm.
And I think his answer in general was, no, we're not in a housing bubble. And Nick and I did a follow-up
couple of
video.
months ago now.
It was, I think, whatever it was.
We're not in a housing
April,
bubble. Prices are going
April,
up,
May.
man. Prices going up means we're in a bubble. We're screwed.
Yeah,
The
so
world's
that's.
gonna
Do
end.
you think we're in a housing bubble?
Nah.
No.
Nah.
Why?
Have you ever been in a housing bubble?
For
For those that don't know who you are,
I like blowing bubbles. Like I was in a commercial real estate bubble once. I don't know if it was housing.
it's
And I
a
was in
real
that
estate
one.
bubble,
I
right?
was in a real estate bubble. Yeah.
So you were.
No, this isn't that.
So we're not in that right now.
No, I don't think so.
I think we've talked about it privately in conversation in a couple videos that we've done where it's like, hey, what do we think? Dave references the mass exodus from California, New York, certain states that are not business friendly, that are people are leaving. The workers are leaving to go to other states, Texas, Tennessee, right?
I think
Florida.
we're seeing increased demand for real estate products in states and cities that are sensible for business for a lot of different reasons. For the free money in the market, for the 25% that they just printed last year, for employment, for honestly in some cases a better quality of life. So you have a coastal city, and by the way, I don't think we're necessarily in a bubble on the coasts either.
Right.
But I think they're more susceptible to larger swings in market fluctuations. So I think Dallas, I think a lot of these stabilized larger cities are probably, if anything, going to see further appreciation because of the economic policies in the cities and states.
I agree.
If we're in a bubble that's going to affect housing, I don't think it's technically a housing bubble. I think there might be other aspects in the marketplace that are not sustainable in the long term, but predicting where that's going to go and when that's going to happen is kind of a fool's errand. But it doesn't mean that housing won't be affected to a certain extent down the road in a while. But currently, we're definitely not in a housing-induced bubble.
So I remember, going back to 2008 to 2011, that was definitely a bubble, right? And that's the one that everyone references, and they're like, oh my gosh, we're foreclosures. And everyone's referencing now, due to COVID and people, the mass foreclosures or defaults, lack of foreclosures, let's call them defaults. So people are panicking. It goes back to there's fear in the marketplace that people are reacting to, but I think it's a false fear, right? I don't think there's actually anything there to be afraid of in the near future.
I think there's a lot of uncertainty potentially in the marketplace that, if anything, is constraining supply on the consumer side of the market. And what I mean by that is, I think, so COVID hits, whatever folks were thinking they were going to move last summer, for example, all of a sudden that retail person is going to say, well, maybe I don't want to move because I'm not so certain in my employment in this new spot, or whatever the circumstances. Maybe I don't know if I want to upgrade my house and buy a bigger house.
Right.
So
or the reverse of that. Sorry, but
absolutely,
because we're investors, right? What we deal with, and this is something I was trying to explain to people because again, in our investment world, people ask, Tony, why don't we have inventory? Why are there no houses for me to buy? And the answer really is most of the houses that we buy, the distressed properties that we buy, are from the older clientele who need to downsize, not upsize. We don't buy from people who need to upsize,
that's a
really,
good point.
right? So we're buying from people who need to downsize, mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, whatever. And, well, for the last 18 months, why would you move mom and dad into a nursing home where it was, relatively speaking, on the broader perspective, the news was telling you that it was unsafe, right? Why would you take them from their sanctity of their house where you can quarantine them if you had to, you could protect them and isolate them very easily, why would you move that person to a susceptible area? So now that things are kind of opening back up, I think those people are going to start to segue into whatever that transition, right? So that backlog of 18 months of those people, I think, are going to start to open their doors to selling.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think in the past year and a half, what we've experienced is an artificial decrease in the supply of inventory. And it's hard to say that it's an artificial, but definitely a stimulated demand for certain products from for investors.
Yeah.
So that's going to drive up prices in the short term. But then you got to look at the fundamentals of why the prices are increasing. And is that a bubble effect, or is that just an economic kind of cause and effect of the supply constraints and the demand increases? So I think the most likely thing that we're going to experience in the next probably 12 to 18 months is not necessarily a sharp contraction in the real estate market. I think we're likely to see kind of a consolidation in price patterns. So I think we're likely to see, if there's a pullback or an increase in inventory, it's not necessarily going to affect prices so much. It's going to be more of a cooling off of the increase in prices. So we're going to see, we're going to see price decreases in some properties because a lot of people are putting things on the MLS for just numbers that are unattainable and seeing where they get with it. So if you see price drops in the on the MLS at certain price points, maybe over $1 million, over $2 million, does that mean that that's it's an unstable bubble waiting to pop?
Right.
Or does it mean that no, they were shooting for the moon and they missed, so now they gotta rein it in a little bit, and is that going to cause a little bit of it's not a correction, it's consolidation in the price pattern?
Yeah, I think using the proper language is important, and I think it's funny because we see it, especially just in our network, where people are, even on our houses, when we talk about put a house on the market and it went for over ask or something, I think we're going to start to be able to have more of a normal conversation of, hey, I put a house on the market, it sold for what I put it on there for. Maybe the conversation is, I got a little bit under my ask, but I took it and it closed quick. I think we're going to stop having those conversations at some point in the near future where, hey, I got $25K over ask.
I kind of hope so. I kind of hope so, because I think that's a sign of a more stable market.
Yeah.
Right now, people are literally patting themselves on the back because they got $25K more than ask.
Right.
And that's not a back pat situation.
No,
because there's no contributing factor that they did right that made that price now go for $25,000 over market. It was in the past 6 to 9 months we've seen an unhealthy increase in prices.
Yes.
An unhealthy increase in prices doesn't necessarily mean that there's a corresponding deflation or crash. It just means that there can be a stabilization and a like I keep saying, consolidation in price pattern.
I think Dave says in his video, just because the prices go up does not mean that they have to come back down.
Right. Yeah. Just because something's expensive doesn't mean it's not worth it.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's huge to talk about, because everyone is using fear. It's so emotional. And I think they say there's a study done where what was the most stressful thing that someone could go through in their life? You would think death of a family member or something like that, right?
Public speaking?
Is
that what it is?
Yeah,
no,
it's public speaking.
No,
where does breaking your back rank?
No, the number one most stressful thing you could go through is moving.
Really?
Yes. And so as it's and you see it when you buy these houses. Yeah. It's so emotional.
The houses are rotting around them, and they're staying in it. They can literally just list it and sell it and get out of it, downsize. But they're scared. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn.
And on the other end, on the retail side, when you're buying something, it's so emotional because you're so proud. There's so much pride to being able to buy either your first home or your family's next home, or hey, we're having a baby, we're gonna go get another. We're gonna go to a 4-bedroom from a 3-bedroom. There's so much pride in it, right? And I think that it's just pure emotional. And for us, it's a business decision, but for the people that we buy from and the people that we sell to, it's very emotional. And I think that.
Well, I think from the investment side, the better you can understand the emotional impact that you're making in someone else's life by providing a solution to one of their problems, the better you can do on both sides of the equation. the better you can relate to the seller
Mm-hmm.
in terms of solving a problem that, it's not a bad problem. It's not all hoarder houses and bad stuff, but if someone inherits a house, it is, like you said, a stressful situation to have a lot of crap sitting in there that they think, in their mind, they think, well, I got to go through all this stuff, and I got to throw out this couch that's 40 years old, and I got to deal with all this stuff.
I got to go through mom's clothes, or
Right, I got to go through all of her clothes and figure out
Mm-hmm.
what we want to keep and figure out what we don't want to keep and then give it to Goodwill and all this other, whatever. And for us, it's easy for us to come in and say, Mr. Home Seller, I'm not in your position, but here's what I can do to help. And say, if it's any less stress for you, you come in here, you take whatever you want. If you got gold bars and guns, take them out, because I've never found them in all my years. I've looked for them, but they're never there. And anything you don't want, just leave in the house, and don't worry about it. If you want to give stuff to Goodwill, call them out, have them take care of it. But anything you don't want, then just leave it here. Don't worry about it. Don't even think about it again.
Yeah, so we're providing a solution to
Absolutely.
A bad situation, and that's what we're problem solvers, right?
I think so.
And-
we're definitely solution providers.
And then on the other end of it, I think the best part of it is the opportunity. We can give an opportunity to somebody.
We make our money by providing liquidity in the marketplace to sellers, and providing, ideally, if we're good at our jobs, a good product that a buyer can be happy with, that they don't need to worry about a lot of issues
Right.
coming up with, as long as, if we do a good job. So think of it this way. If a regular home buyer comes out and wants to buy a house, and this house needs new bathrooms, new carpet, new paint, new flooring, new roofing, new whatever, all this other stuff, and because of the market's weird, they can't qualify for a renovation 203 loan or whatever.
Yeah.
They can qualify for conventional financing, so they're going to pay $200,000 for this house. They're going to put 20% down. Let's say they only put 10% down.
Even
so
if they only put 5%.
so they're down. So they're out of pocket, let's say $20,000,
Mm-hmm.
and now they have a house that needs my price and your price. So my price, it needs $30,000 worth of work. Your price, it needs $25,000 worth of work. Their price, it needs $50,000 worth of work.
Yeah.
Well, where does that $50,000 come from?
Credit.
Their credit card?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not coming from a renovation loan on the property, because
Right.
they already have a loan on the property. It's coming from their credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming from their savings. It's coming from their bank account.
Family members.
Family members
Right.
that they just borrow from. Oh, I
Mhm.
promise I'll pay you back with interest. So we provide that security to the end buyer, where they're not worrying about all this rehab cost. Now, there's some buyers that don't want that. They want to have a built-in sweat equity, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But there is a cost in terms of time and lack of familiarity with the process for that end buyer.
I think this ties into Dave's point of just the buyer pool. He's talking about a mass exodus of people leaving. He referenced California. There's droves of U-Hauls going down the highway, right? And I said in another video to you, I said, why hasn't California dropped yet? And it's because, well, there's still a ton of people that want
There's
to live
still a lot
there,
of folks there.
right?
It's
There's still a lot of, even let's just say it's 1 million people that left.
Mhm.
There's still 100 million, whatever the number is, that still live there, right?
33 million or something. Like that. It's a huge number.
It is. It's insane. So, and there's still opportunity there for
Well,
other people.
I think
right?
we both have friends. We both have friends that are buying and selling houses in California.
Yeah.
We tend to think of California as just the coast. We think of it as San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco.
What you see on TV, right? The $1
Yeah,
million
the beach.
listing, Los Angeles, right?
Yeah,
So-
you see that, the beautiful views. But there's an entire inland area that's a lot more kind of median home price affordable. There's a
Isn't-
lot of 250, 300K houses also in California.
I was about to say, there's some statistic of the amount of farmland, like there's more farmland in California than there is like resident or something like that. Like there was a statistic I thought that like half of California was like farmland, which I don't know if that's true. Fact checkers, but so we're not in a bubble. We're maybe
What
headed
causes a
for
bubble?
we're maybe headed for a plateau.
Let me ask that question. So in 2008, right? So this isn't that we've said this 10 times over because of everything that they did this time that was different that time. Last time though, we discussed it earlier. There's one single thing that happened in that one, right? Lehman Brothers, everybody just started crashing overnight.
Money.
Yeah, money
Mhm.
disappeared. That there's no single point failure in this one.
No.
Yeah.
The single point failure is if you think that the increased money supply, I think, from the government is somehow sustainable without some sort of rein in spending or increase in the government basically taking more of our money through taxation, through regulation, or through inflation. And those are basically the three ways that the government steals money from people. Taxation hits rich people more than poor people. Inflation hits poorer people percentage to income wise more than rich people. And regulation hits is a tax on business, which is basically also a tax on tends to be lower income people, because I mean
Their cost goes up.
If I'm buying a $500,000 boat, and it all of a sudden goes up to $550,000, I'm still buying a $500,000 boat. I'm just paying $550,000 for it,
Yeah.
but I can afford that.
I was about to say we experience this on some of the houses that we do. If you do the buyer that's buying the house on Hollywood that we just finished, I put it up for a little bit more than I thought I would get for it. And the buyer that paid $440,000 for it was the same buyer that would have paid $400,000 for it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a house that's listed at $199,000 compared to $250,000, those might be two different buyers.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point.
And so there's something to be said that the like not every there aren't but on the same side, the $1 million house is very different than the $1.5 million buyer, right? They're huge swings, and so when you get down to that lower income or lower, and trying not to be negative about it, but that cheaper price point, your buyer pool is hypersensitive to pricing, whether it's rate, the price that they're putting, the price that they're paying for it, or as we talked about with the loan term, right? There's so many different variables compared to the guy that's buying a $450,000 house. They're not as sensitive to certain swings.
Well, coming from the coast, coming from San Diego, so we're more accustomed to market fluctuations in the real estate market. We saw a little bitty one in kind of the early 2000s. We obviously saw the 2008, 2009. We saw the savings and loan stuff in the 80s where things took a good dip, and Texas got hit by that a little bit too. But we're more accustomed to what tends to swing. And in a market correction, what tends to swing is the things that are outliers. So across the board, we saw in California huge hits in the condos, where condos were half priced, 70% off. We saw huge hits in the high end. The high end inventory was just slaughtered. We saw huge hits in what at the time might be considered speculative development in inland cities. We also saw a good size hit in those same communities that were more working class, kind of median home price communities, but they weren't coastal, because that's still kind of a core competency of California is coastal stuff. Where we saw a hit was definitely the house that's in the city, suburban, white picket fence and all that. That house still got hit 30-35%, which is unfortunate, but it didn't get hit 70-80%.
Yeah,
like some of these other places.
I think I can't imagine waking up one day and having $1 million mortgage and
having a $400,000 house
and having a $400,000 house. I don't know what that would feel like. And so and maybe in a way that's maybe why I'm opposed to thinking we're in a bubble. Maybe that's part of it. But I truly believe I've been a real estate investor in DFW for 17 years. 15 years I've been sitting with some really I'm very honored to be sitting at a breakfast table once a month with some pretty big investors, and it's always funny to me because for the last 10 years we've been watching the market rise, and every month it's kind of someone asks the same question for the last 10 years. Hey guys, when is this bubble gonna pop? And I don't know if it's just in the last 2 years I've started to stop asking that question, because I've realized that there isn't a pop. If anything, we're going to have as you keep referencing, a consolidation, a normalization, of these prices, and because there's such demand to be here. So I there isn't a pop. I think people have been waiting for one.
I don't think there's a pop in the real estate market. It doesn't mean that, like I've said before, I think it doesn't mean that a market dynamic changing event doesn't have a negative impact on the real estate market potentially. But that event isn't precipitated by real estate. Last time it was precipitated by real estate, by instability in the real estate market itself.
And in specifically financially.
Right.
Like so it wasn't necessarily real estate as much as it was the financing behind the mechanism of real estate, right? So we referenced on another video our kind of the Dodd-Frank and the banking regulations, and there are some pros and cons to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that those regulations overall are helping keep us out of the bubble that everyone's thinking that we're headed for, because no one really understands. I mean, who's going to read the 25,000 Dodd-Frank Reform Act, right? Like, no one's read that. I mean, I know one guy that's read it, but that's one guy. He's a weird dude. But but I don't know any average person that has read it or even glanced at it, right? So the average person needs to understand that the regulation that came out is actually preventing the bubble, because we wrote better loans. And so there's the liquidity is there with better, more educated buyers, banking systems, right? Asset holders, secondary market investors, right? So there's they learned a wealth of knowledge that they used a year ago or so to protect people, to keep the loans good, to keep the values there, to prevent the financial crisis. Hence, they printed all this money, etc. Now, that doesn't mean, I think you pointed this out.
Doesn't mean that's not bad.
That doesn't
on a different side.
No, where I was going to go with that is that doesn't mean that there isn't another. There can be another financial crisis, right? I mean, there's no one's saying that there isn't going to be another financial crisis. We're not going to wake up tomorrow. At least what we think. We're not going to wake up in the next couple months and our house is now worth half of what it is today. Oh. I don't think that is going to happen.
And when thinking about that, probably quantify what's a crisis too, because is the .com bubble of 2001, 2002, is that a crisis that really hits into real estate? No, not really. It impacted real estate, especially coastal real estate in some of the tech cities. And that's why, California is more susceptible to that, because that's where the money is, flowing around. So there's less flow. But traditionally, real estate tends to appreciate and tends to not have the next crash doesn't tend to usually be the same asset class as the previous crash. And I think real estate's already had its crash for the past little bit. So I think the next correction is probably, heck, it might go back into tech. Tech's acting kind of stupid. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, if we had a crystal ball, we probably wouldn't be doing a YouTube channel right now. But if we had a crystal ball,
no, I'd be up in the casinos.
Yeah. But if we had a crystal ball, obviously we would have a whole lot more information. All we're trying to do is draw on our daily life experiences, our history, and use it to keep ourselves informed going forward as far as real estate goes. But just tying back into Dave's thing, I think if you're selling now, buy now. Don't hoard cash. Use yes, you're going to be up against a stiffer competition when you're buying, but use the cheaper interest that we're experiencing right now. Use your appreciation and your equity that you have to put down. Don't if you got that cash, maybe put a little bit more down on the next house so that you're not over leveraged, right? So
maybe don't maximize it. If you're buying your dream home, it's your dream home because that's an emotional choice,
right?
Not because it's necessarily a good investment. Now, is it a fundamentally decent investment? Well, if you ask Dave, the answer might be one thing. If you ask Grant Cardone, the answer might be a different thing.
Right.
If you ask me, the answer's kind of somewhere in the middle. But yeah, if you're buying your dream home and you can afford your dream home, live in your dream home.
I think you just have to do what's right for you, and turn off the noise and the negativity from everything else, and make informed decisions that best suit you and your financial situation, and not what other external things are telling you is right or wrong, right? Like
Well-
kind of take that step back and say, yes, this is right. for
And
me.
don't be negatively impacted by all the noise out there.
Right.
All the talking heads, all the bots, all the political nonsense online and in the news. There's stuff that makes you informed and educated and smart, and there's stuff that makes you money. And if your goal is to be a little bit richer tomorrow than you were yesterday, you want to be informed as to how to do that.
Right.
But it's more important to actually take action.
Yeah, and keep going, right? Don't just stop.
I think so.
So I think Dave made a good point of, if we're not in a bubble, if you're selling now, buy now, use it intelligently to make your decisions and leverage your future, so that you can keep achieving your goals.
So Dave Ramsey is right.
In this specific case of,
Should I pay down all the debt on my house right now?
Time out.
we're gonna save
Or
that
tomorrow.
We're gonna
That's a
save that
different video.
We're gonna save
Different
that for
video?
another video.
Different video. All right, we'll do that one later.
I truly appreciate you coming in and spending some time with us and making some videos. If you guys like our basically our message today, definitely like and subscribe and share it. If you have any questions or differences, we'd love to hear from you. So stay tuned and keep going, guys.
Make sure you check out TJ's YouTube channel also. Thanks, guys.